Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Morning Magazine for this December 30th, 2019. You have your host, James J. Maloff, here today, and we are joined by our good friends from the Wood County Sheriff's Department right now. We have Sheriff Becker and Melissa Saeger in with us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're also joined by Kevin from Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. Good morning to you, Kevin. Thanks a lot for being in with us today. I appreciate all of you guys being in on a week like this where it's, holiday week. And then, of course, Mother Nature decides, I missed out on a white Christmas for you guys. We're going to give you a white New Year's. That was awfully nice of her. That was a nicely thing to do.
Just odd weather. Well, it's Wisconsin, especially central Wisconsin. We get all this rain over the weekend. And for me, I'm a snowmobiler, and things were getting set up really nice for our trail system here in Wood County. And we were being very optimistic that we might have a trail system open before Christmas. And then what happens? We get all this rain, working with all of our snowmobile trail coordinators.
Okay.
Clubs. I'm sorry.
Clubs. Okay. Me too. I couldn't think of it either.
Yeah. We all work together. I'm part of the Keller Knights, and a lot of work goes into the trail system. But unfortunately, the weather this last weekend was not very helpful. But hopefully today, things we'll get a few inches of snow, and it'll get a little cooler, and we might have a snowmobile season after all. Hopefully.
Yeah. As long as we got a handful of things to talk about here, but as long as we have a pause in the action, I want to mention to everybody that we do take questions for the sheriff here. If you guys want to give us a call, 424-2600, feel free to call in with any questions you have, 424-2600. And since we're talking weather, I know that it seems repetitive, and a lot of the stuff that we can say sometimes when we get this weather is kind of stuff that everybody's already heard a million times. But we got a lot of people out there, I think, I don't have to tell you to, that don't always have a common sense when it comes to this weather.
Yeah.
I will wholeheartedly admit that I pull out of the driveway today. I got four-wheel drive. I feel confident, and immediately realizing I need new tires, and was sliding a little bit and everything. So, I'm not at all pointing fingers. I could do the same thing too. Yeah. But some things to keep in mind when you're bopping around out there today in this kind of weather.
Well, you bring up a really good point, James. The maintenance of your vehicle that's the driver's responsibility. And when you get weather such as this, tires are pretty important to have. So we always recommend that, you take a look at your vehicle, whether it be tires, lights. The biggest recommendations we can make to, the public as law enforcement officers on days like today's, just allow for extra time. The road conditions aren't going to be conducive to, a normal weather day. Yeah. So, allow for extra time. If you're going to be late, you're going to be late. You don't want to, you don't want to be in a crash. No. Or something, worse where, there's injuries involved, which unfortunately we do see. So no, that's a great point to bring up, because it's always a nice reminder. Even if you have four-wheel drive, that doesn't mean that you should go the speed limit or above it. That can create more issues for not just you as a driver, but for the people around you as well. So just slow down, get your lights on, and make sure that, you're taking a look at the maintenance of your vehicle before you decide to get behind a wheel.
And, one of the little things for me is always taking a little more time when you get into stop signs. Those stop sign, that's area right there, it may look like tons of cars have gone through there or whatever, but you still want to take your time, slow down a little bit, earlier than you normally would, and that kind of thing. I noticed that helped me a lot, especially on Rosencrantz over here, the roads that don't get driven on as often,
right?
That kind of thing.
It's always icy. Yeah, where I live, it gets plowed, but it's not like, a highway. Where it's packed snow and it's ice. You gotta drive a little bit slower, and hey, that's just the way it is. Just to take a little more time. Yeah.
So I noticed you brought some backup in today.
Yeah. I felt like I needed it. And Melissa, I figured she'd be good backup for me today, and so I'm proud to have her come on the radio show. We had talked last week if she'd be willing to come. I don't like to make people come.
Sure.
But Melissa Saeger, she's one of our lieutenants in our jail. I've been with the Sheriff's Department several years. Started out as a dispatcher and then worked her way onto the corrections floor, and now as a supervisor. She'll talk a little bit more about the programs that she oversees, one of them being the electronic monitoring program. She's been doing that for several years, just doing an outstanding job with that, and that's a busy job. It's a very busy job when we have usually between 30 to 60 inmates that are on that program. You have to, you have to manage that. And that's a GPS program that she can talk about a little bit more. She's also going to be in charge of a partnership that we have coming up that we'll talk in a little bit more depth with Mid-State Technical College. It's kind of revolving around inmate programming. That we've talked about that before on the show. That's going to be a continued investment that we're going to do at the Sheriff's Department, because I've always mentioned these types of programs are going to help our lower inmate population. And once those folks do get released from custody, we want them to succeed. We don't want them coming back. And these types of programs that we could invest in, especially with Mid-State here in town, it's just an ideal partnership that came along, and they're heavily invested with this type of a program that we'll talk a little bit more about with a lot of the jails, not just exclusively to Wood County, but Portage County, Adams County. So they're reaching out because they know that these types of things will really benefit people.
When it comes to the bracelet part of things, it's such a game changer for people because, and I guess to touch on a little bit of what you mentioned there too, for you guys in the sense too, because the overpopulation in a prison is something that everybody has to consider, never wants, and this helps with that a bit to a degree. But it's also one of those programs that is not, it's certainly not for everybody, and it's a privilege to be able to be on that program. It's not something that you can take lightly. Melissa, when it comes to that, and your first kind of working with that, I didn't realize that there was that many people that are on the program. What is one of the first things you kind of have to deal with when it comes to that?
The first thing we have to do is we need to make sure that the individual, while meeting with them, we look at their classification history, how their behavior's been in the jail. They also have to be sentenced with Huber privileges to be able to serve their sentence at home. And there's other factors that play. They have to have a safe environment to live in. They have to be able to have internet or a working phone line. There are requirements like that need to happen. I need to be able to get a hold of them. They need to, if they live in Marshfield or outside of the area, they need to be able to have transportation to meet with me because there is maintenance and face-to-face visits that need to be done. You did a great job of summarizing it all, but there's so much gray area and all that, I imagine. It's nowhere near as just, A, B, C, D at all. No, there's forms that we use to classify inmates. We can do a background on them. We run background packets. We can see their history, what type of crimes they've committed, to make sure they're being honest with us. We go through an interview process to see how they feel about electronic monitoring. There's a lot of information that we can get from, believe it or not, this screening form that we can use. And it's usually pretty accurate. I spend a lot of time with inmates one-on-one during this process. And again, I can look at their history through when they first were incarcerated, all their arrest history anywhere in the United States. So that's something that I take into consideration when I'm thinking about placing them on electronic monitoring, such as if somebody was in a disorderly conduct domestic abuse situation. I'm not going to let them live with the victim of that crime. It might be okay through probation because they go through classes and things like that, but that's a rule that I have. So that would be one example of how it's a DC domestic, but you're not going to live with your victim because I'm not going to put them back in that situation because, again, we want them to succeed and we don't want them to come back. So that's a process that we take. So I'm not going to put somebody on the bracelet to try to have them fail. What I want them to do is to get out in the community and succeed and be sober and be part of their kids' lives and show their employers what type of employee they can have when they're not drinking or doing drugs and getting out in the community and just doing basic life skills such as grocery shopping and going to their kids' teachers' conference and just trying to be a productive member of our community instead of causing more heartache for people that are trying to help them, their kids, because they're the real victim.
It's a heavy job.
It is.
There's a lot of mental lifting going on with that kind of position because I imagine just being a human being, you feel for these people and stuff, and you have a job to do, and certainly everybody has, if you mess up, you got it. There's consequences to that, and you have to pay those and everything. But one of the things that comes across so often whenever me and the sheriff are talking here is that you don't want this revolving door. You're trying to get away from that, and I see nationally more and more people talking about that as well. That we're trying to get back to what prison was intended for. Okay, you mess up. There you go. There's your punishment, and then you move on, and hopefully become you learn from that, and don't mess up again, and you add to society in that. When it came to doing this, because the sheriff mentioned that you started in dispatch and went to this. What made you kind of switch to this?
Well, I went to school it's kind of funny how my path worked out. I was all registered to go to college at UWSP, and then the bills started rolling in, and I'm like, you know what, this might not be, this isn't a good option for me right now. This is not what I wanted. This is not what I want to do. So kind of at a loss there, I decided to join the military. Loved the structure of the military. Back when I started, you couldn't get into the law enforcement program. There's a waiting list because so many people now, they can't fill up the programs, unfortunately. But when I started, the law enforcement program was full, so I went to corrections because corrections was a new program. So what happened was I went through the corrections program and liked the structure of the military. So as law enforcement paramilitary type of profession, I decided that's what I wanted to do. So I stayed with corrections, and I got hired before I even graduated. So back when I started almost 20 years ago, we were cross-trained. So you could work in dispatch or corrections. So being the low person on the totem pole, I got to go to dispatch. So I dispatched for probably a year and a half until we decided not to be cross-trained anymore, and I decided to do corrections because that's what my degree was in. Okay. Dispatch is a whole nother level of stress, and the jobs are very different.
Yeah.
Very different.
And I give so much credit to people in those industries doing any of that kind of work, whether it's with air or other departments and such. That is not an easy gig to do.
No.
There are no easy gigs in what you guys do. There's no, what am I saying? There's none of what you guys do.
No, it's all a big partnership, though. If you look at dispatch, corrections, patrol, investigations, administration, it's that team atmosphere is so huge, and I've talked about that before, not only within our organization, but the rest of them as well. Who do you count on when you need help? You got to look at your other law enforcement agencies, fire departments, our rescue unit helping, assisting fire departments. It's just a team atmosphere. And one thing, with Melissa, I always, if somebody's a veteran, you always want to point that out and thank you for your service to the country.
Thank you.
And thank you to the service to Wood County. She's exactly right. I don't have the military experience. I'm kind of jealous of that. My path took me to UWSP to get my degree, and I'm very fortunate for that. But we have a lot of veterans that work at our organization, and it just that structure that they bring to our department only makes us better.
There's a couple of things that both of you hit on there that I'd like to do as kind of a segue into the mid-state program. To start off with, when you were a kid, is this what you wanted to do? If not law enforcement, something similar to it?
Not initially. I wanted to. My father had a business, and basically it's a steel business that would manufacture racks for warehouses, and he wanted me to work for him. But the problem with that is moving, and my wife wasn't. Julie wasn't really up for that. But it was a great opportunity that we talked about, and I was interested in it, but just didn't fit in our lifestyle. And then the next was potentially being a teacher, a FIAD teacher. That's why I started at UWSP. I was playing football, and I kind of, why don't we do that?
Oh, yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
But then I just had a change of heart, and UWSP at the time didn't have a law enforcement program, but political science was the closest thing that came to it. And they had an internship that in government, and I asked, well, can I do something like with the Stevens Point Police Department? And they did. I'm like, all right, that's the kind of path I'm going to take. And that experience at Stevens Point PD was awesome. I mean, primarily what I was doing is doing ride-alongs and writing papers on it, what I was seeing and whatnot. And that's where, for me, it's like, okay, this is the path that I want to take. And back then, it was pretty tough to get into law enforcement. And Melissa can talk about that too, where what we're seeing in applicants now, right now we're hiring. We have one position open, and we're doing that recruitment. And we have maybe 20, 25 people that have applied. And we've had we've been accepting applications for a couple months. When I started, it was like 400 to 500 people for one position.
Wow.
And especially in central Wisconsin, it's very competitive. And what most people had to do is go and get some experience somewhere, pick up and move, which we did. Worked
Yeah.
a couple of years down by Madison, and then fortunately got hired up, back here in central Wisconsin. Great department. Things obviously worked out very well for me, in my career that I'm very grateful for. But yeah, that's the path that I took, and it's 25 years, and it's like,
It's crazy to think about sometimes, isn't it? I can see it. Yeah. One of the things that actually Kevin and I were talking about this beforehand too, is that what a lot of the work that you do in life, you do have to travel for, you have to move for, you have to go where the job is, where the work is available. I don't think it's something that we think about in law enforcement very often, but it applies to what you guys do as well. And I appreciate you sharing that, man, because it's such a great example of you could start out here, end up here, and still be happy.
Yep.
You tend to in life end up where you were meant to be. Melissa, how did it go for you? Because you gave us a little bit of a look into that.
Yeah. I grew up in Stevens Point, and so going to school at Mid-State, and then my dad was from here and he was living here. So it just kind of all worked out, and got a job at Wood County and had little kids then, and moved here, and haven't looked back since. It's amazing how things work out.
Yeah, it really is. What we think as kids, what we're supposed to be, and who we end up being, it's kind of just how it is supposed to be, how it works out. It's a great example too, both of your guys' stories about what law enforcement can not only certainly do for us as a community, but what it can do for you as yourselves, your families, and that kind of thing. It's obviously a very noble profession, but it also is a very beneficial one. It can really do a lot for you, not just paycheck wise, but right. How you feel about adding to your community, or adding to a community that you care about and everything. We talk all the time about the person standing there and sitting on the couch and everything, complaining but never doing anything. It's a whole different thing to actually be taking action and doing something about it.
Yeah,
and it kind of leads us into the Mid-State program you were touching on earlier.
Yeah, I'll let Melissa kind of dive into that, but it was we were approached, and I wasn't aware that Mid-State had a program that we're going to talk about, and it just made sense. Financially, it didn't cost the sheriff's department much money. It just made sense. My gosh, you're how many blocks away, and you offer this program?
Right. Yeah.
It's like this. It just makes sense, and we talked a couple of months ago about that with the representatives from Mid-State, and figured January was going to be the time that we're going to launch the program. They got a new semester coming. It just made sense.
So what is the program, Melissa?
So we teamed up with Mid-State. We're going to have a teacher. We're going to actually have two different teachers that come into our facility for 6 hours a week. I'm really excited about it. As I said earlier, I deal with inmates on a close basis. So it's amazing how many people don't have any degree or haven't graduated high school. So what we can do is we can offer the HSED and the GED classes in our facility. And that'll be for women and men. And we're going to do that for 2 hours a week. So I feel like that is a positive. Sometimes the judges will even order the person that gets sentenced in court to obtain their HSED or GED. So we're already going to be ahead of that.
That's great.
Which is great. There's a lot of people that just need 1 or 2 credits to get it or a class. So I feel like that's positive. It's hard to get a job in the area if you have a record, but it's even harder if you have a record and you don't have an HSED GED. So I'm really excited about that. I'm also really excited. We're going to have a career awareness, and that's going to be on Fridays. And what it's going to be is going to be 8 modules. And once these students/inmates complete this, they're going to get a college credit. So they're going to have that, and that can transfer to Mid-State. It's a basic credit that everybody needs to attend Mid-State. So they're going to walk out with that. And our plan is to have like a little award, presentation for them, and to have administration there. Because it's a big deal. Yeah. And for them to put that effort through and give them something to look forward to when they get out of jail is amazing. Jail is not a great place to be. It's not comfortable. It's not fun. And they're doing their punishment. The way we treat them is not their punishment. Jail is. So if we're giving them these opportunities to do better in our community and bring that type of business. I can't tell you how many businesses call me looking for people to work for them. We have so many inmates that have come out and had employment and gained employment, so they're not, recreating crimes to, get food or hopefully we have a recovery program that will touch base on, so they're not creating more crimes to get drugs because they've gone through this treatment. So to me, if we save 1, 2, 3 people and get them function in the community, it's a win.
Yep.
It truly is
Absolutely.
a win, and I'm really proud that we're offering this here. I can't wait. I think it's going to do great things. The people that we've dealt with at Midstate are amazing. One of the teachers that we have, one is in Adams County, so she's dealt with some of her inmates already, so she understands that. There's also they're also going to have a contact at the job center. So they're also going to be able to have a contact there, and that's somebody that's going to be coming into our facility as well. So when they get out, they're already seeing these job opportunities that are going to be out there for them. It's a great thing. I'm so proud of it. I can't wait to see it grow. I think education is so important. I think it gives people a sense of, believing in themselves, because they're embarrassed. They're not happy with what they did. They're mortified, and they want to make a change. You
very well worded, very well said. All of that. In particular, there was a line there that you said about jail is their punishment. It's not on you guys to punish them more. It's not on you guys to make it even harder or anything. They know what they've, hopefully at least, and not it's every individual case, each case by case basis. But that's a really cool point to make. I think that's something that just looking at the system the way it is, that's encouraging to hear. And then all this on top of it is so vital, because the biggest thing, when we're talking about stopping this revolving door, let's be real. One of the reasons people commit crimes that they've committed already, whether it's drug dealing, stealing, any of these things, is because of money, is because of a lack of income. And they continue to do this because they cannot make that income. Finding work once you have any kind of record is one of the toughest things in the world. And fighting that stigma. Now, also, you also don't deserve necessarily a pat on the back or a break because you messed up. And that's what society, we have rules for a reason and everything. But there has to be a balance there. And part of combating that balance is by having some education behind it. It looks a lot better that, okay, well, this person did this and this wrong, but they have this degree, or they have these college credits, or they have this going for it. So it balances almost, I don't want to say it balances out, but it helps. It certainly goes a long way. And something else that you touched on so well there, Melissa, that I think we don't think about often is the confidence it gives you. There's nobody who walks into prison confident. If they do, there's a whole other story there that we could get into. And the majority of people are shamed. They feel bad. They feel wrong. They feel like they let their family down. They feel like they let themselves down, their community, all these things. So one of the ways to stop this revolving door is to build that confidence back up a little bit. And one of the greatest ways to do that is learning. Every one of us, no matter if we're 10 or 110, we feel great when we learn something or a new thing or something like that. We want to show it off. We want to, enjoy it. This is a great way to do that. This program sounds really like a game changer. It really does.
Yeah, we're looking forward to moving forward with it. That we had talked before off air on just that what Midstate has to offer. I mean, just you look at the criminal justice program. I would say probably a high percentage of our deputies and corrections officers, graduate from Midstate Technical College. We got great partnerships out there. A lot of us have taught out there. It's one of the most favorite things that I did outside of what my career was, especially on the patrol side of things. I got to teach out there and work with, our next law enforcement officers, and now to see them 10 plus years in their career, and it's rewarding. But just the college there is just great. There's so many opportunities that Midstate provides, not just for law enforcement officers, but for people. Maybe a 4-year college isn't for you, but there's so many opportunities there for trades or just starting to, like you said, build that education foundation. And then maybe you're going to go on to get a 4-year degree. But what we have here in town, and it also reaches up to Marshfield. We're very fortunate.
Yeah, it's a great school. Just bottom line, great school. And really, really good people running it and doing some really good work in this community, working with the community, working with people and seeing what people want. Anytime I have anybody on from Midstate with the show here, I'm always just so encouraged and feel so good, not only about this area, but about what they're doing over there and about the people coming in and out of there and such. And it's I appreciate you guys sharing your kind of your origin stories there a little bit there, because telling us how it started for you, because there's a lot of listeners out there, and especially when we're talking about mid-state students that are starting out, and they may not, they know they want a career, not a job. And it's such a big thing nowadays. And what you guys are doing are certainly careers, and goes a long ways for them listening. We're going to take a really quick break. We'll be back with more with Sheriff Becker, Melissa Saeger here on Morning Magazine, AM 1320, WFHR. Welcome back to Morning Magazine. We're joined by Sheriff Becker. We have Melissa Saeger in with us. We also have Kevin in from Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. And I want to remind everybody that the phone lines are open. If you have any questions for anybody here, 424-2600, 424-2600. I want you to also know that the gang here can talk football too. So if there's any question,
I'd be happy to.
Yes, right, yeah.
Nice Packers win, but I don't know how nice it was, but they're in the playoffs and they got a first-round bye. It's unfortunate that the 49ers won. It'd be nice to see getting to the Super Bowl coming through Lambeau would be really nice to see. But hey, it is what it is.
Lambeau in January is an animal in itself. Mm-hmm. It's a whole different. It's like the 12th man on the field that you have to play against and everything. So I hear you. I see what you're saying. And, you know, I was joking, but in a way, I kind of wish I could have you guys on sometime to talk about stuff that isn't as heavy as it is. You know, 'cause it's important to what we're talking about. It seriously is, but it's also one of those things where I never wanted to anybody out there to ever take the impression that anything coming from here is anything but positive, because everything that you guys do from the first day you've been in with me, Sheriff, has been in line towards that, towards the positive and building and making things better. Our heads aren't in the sand. We understand the situations, what they are and everything, but you can have this balance of being realistic and also being hopeful. Mm-hmm. And that's important. I think we need more and more of that, especially as we're going into 2020. We have a lot of things growing in this area, and they're going to bring a lot more traffic, you know, honestly. Yeah. So these are things that we got to, you know, keep in mind as a group here, as a community. As more and more people come into the community or filter in and out as visitors or anything like that. Speaking of fun things, you guys don't always get a chance to do certain things like this, but you were at the River Kings game recently, Pink the Rink?
A couple months ago, the coach contacted me, Marty Quarters. He's the head coach for the River Kings and part owner of the organization, and wanted to do a fundraiser for Sergeant Nate Dean's wife, Kristen, who's battling breast cancer. And I talked it over with Nate and Kristen. They were all in to do that, and they called it Pink the Rink. And all the players had pink jerseys, and then they had our patch on there. And then as part of the fundraiser, they sold the jerseys after the game, kind of did an auction, and the proceeds will go to the Dean family. But it was a great community event. They approached us. And I tell you, if you haven't had an opportunity to go to River Kings game, you should. It's very similar to, I compare it to the Rafters, how they market. Just a great atmosphere. Whether you like that sport or not, you can go out and socialize and enjoy, either a baseball or hockey game. But hats off to the River Kings for approaching us and putting it together and raising some funds for Nate and Kristen.
Yeah.
Even with good insurance, there's still a lot of out-of-pocket costs. And, as a department, we rallied behind them. And then it's just nice to see the community members come and support us, in a time of need. It really means a lot.
It's really a great group of people over there, and Marty and the group are so classy and just great people, and really good examples too. I grew up in a hockey family, and my dad playing and everything, so I'm a little biased when it comes to those guys. And yes, big time. I might as well bleed those colors. I mean, it's such a Blackhawks fan. But one of the cool things about meeting the gang over there and those guys and everything is how important it is to them of character. And you get the same thing from the River Kings whenever you're talking to these. They want to be competitive. They want great players and all that. But that character thing goes a long way. And it starts at the top and it goes all the way down. And I use it as an example, too, of a lot of the businesses in our area, a lot of the non-profits, and including you guys. And again, leadership at the top, and not having solid leadership at the top, and being able to carry that on, and the people that you hire, the people that you bring in, having similar mindsets. These are things that are going to evolve the area, that make things greater. We are always encouraging that, look forward to it, but it's great to have groups like that, like the Rafters, like the River Kings, these kind of groups helping with that stuff. It's also just great entertainment. I mean, that can't be taken lightly either, because that River Kings team's a fun team to watch.
Yeah, it is.
Some good players out there.
Some fun hockey to watch. And, another thing, the point that you bring up is what Marty does with the kids. He makes sure that they get out in the community. So, you're seeing the players, whether it's at parades or any like public events, he's getting those kids out there, and that really comes down to the character point that you brought up. Not these kids are here obviously to play hockey, but they're also out in the community, just talking with folks. I mean, you're not better than anybody else. Here you're, this is a stepping stone that the River Kings is, because most of those kids are trying to find their way either to the pros or just getting into college. Understanding the hockey structure and how it works, I didn't know it.
Oh, yeah.
I thought, okay, you play hockey in high school, and what's the next step?
Right.
You should go to college, but that's not how it works. You go
Yeah.
into all these tiers, and then you kind of get drafted, and then you get noticed from there. Like even going to a Division III school, UWSB's got a good program there, but most of those kids they're freshmen, they're 20 years old.
Yeah.
So if you look at the commitment to play this sport and how it's going to, put your life on hold for a good couple of years. I was not aware of that.
Yeah, it's one of those. It reminds me a lot of baseball.
Yeah.
If you want to, growing up and you want to be a baseball player, you be ready to travel, have a nice suitcase, because it's one of those jobs, kind of similar to what we've been talking about here. A little bit of that theme there, where sometimes if you have a career path and you want to see it through, you have to move sometimes to do those things. But when you're fortunate, you can get back in the area, and one of the things that you can do when doing that is being a good example, a good community member. You mentioned that with the players on that. We see the same thing with the Rafters.
Yep.
I throw a little bit of, maybe this is a curveball. Maybe I think this is one you can get a single off of at least. But is there any programs for inmates are on the success stories, to use a lame kind of term, but people who have kind of have righted the path, they're not in the revolving door anymore, and for them to be able to kind of show what you can do to people who are in the beginnings of those stages, and wanting to correct their life, giving them the example of at the end, other side of that, on the other end of the tunnel there, the people like. I don't mean to always bring him up and everything, but my dad, I feel like, is an incredibly good example of this. The guy, his first half of his life was one way. This last 20 years, completely different guy. I'm not a completely different guy. He's still my dad. He's still a character. But he is also, he's let go of all that the demons that he had and all that stuff. I feel like he's a good example. So do we have programs like that? Do we have things like that?
Well, I'll not to throw Melissa on the spot, but I will. I'm sure
we can just keep passing it down.
Yeah.
We can throw it to Kevin next week.
In my career, especially in the patrol side of things, I've had a couple of situations come up where you stop a drunk driver, and it's not a pleasurable, situation for that person, that individual, and they're not real happy. But then afterwards, a couple occasions in my career, I've been thanked because it was an eye-opening experience, very costly, but it made that person really look at, moving forward in their life, and I didn't make that change, But Melissa, I'm sure, could come up with a couple examples, or just with our inmates.
Yeah. So I do have a lot of feel good stories. With my job, because of course, again, not everybody, it's a privilege to do the program, but with the amount of people that, since from when the program started to now, things have changed a lot. With our jail population, with other choices we have to be made. So far, people have not have had their children, have earned their children back, because they've been able to participate and do visits, and I've let them take them to the park and do life skills and get housing and do these things. So instead of their kids being in foster home and having supervised visits, they actually have custody of their kids again. And I think that's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a win all day. I know this sounds kind of funny, not really as a win, but I'm going to take it as a win. I've had inmates that could not find a suitable house to live in. And I've said, listen, you're not in trouble. Let's come back to jail, because, you can't, you're going to get yourself in more trouble, because of these things. And they've actually came back to jail because I was the safest place for them. And as they're being released, they're saying, thank you for believing in me.
Wow.
Thank you for giving me a chance. But for them, jail was the safest place for them. So, but they trusted me enough to tell me what was going on, and me letting them come back to jail and still continue to go to work and do those things. So those are good. I've done home visits, and I've had their kids come up and, just want to give me a hug because their moms and their dad are home with them. It's those things that you can't ever, you can't even describe how it feels.
I was just going to say there's no words.
I've had employers call me and, thank me for, letting one of their employees have a chance and show their true potential before they got into this. Getting people jobs so they can get on their feet. That's another reason why I'm so happy with this mid-state program. Like I said earlier, but with the businesses calling me and have them be on their feet and have them have employment, have them have money saved up, so when they do get released out of jail, they don't have to couch surf. They can get their own place.
Yeah.
So it's positive. I mean, not every day is a feel-good day.
No,
but
no,
that's the way it is.
You guys are often seeing people on the worst days of their lives. So the majority of your stories probably aren't going to be feel good, but the ones that are, the wins that you get, like I mentioned that about my dad. I talk about him because I'm proud. Because it is a win. It is not just a win for me, my mom, my brother, my sister, all that stuff, but it's a win for him, and he can be proud. And it's something that, no matter how dark it may seem, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There always is. You can get to it. You just got to want it. You got to work for it, and you have to have sometimes people in your corner. It is really, really cool to see some of those people in your corner can be the people that are arresting you or are helping you with these things. That's the way you would like to think society should be, but we don't always see that. It's nice to have those examples. It's nice that you guys shared those. I appreciate it. Looks like we have a call coming in. We'll see if they're still there. Good morning. Do you have a question for the Sheriff's Department?
Yeah, I do. I think it was about 6-8 months ago I had called in because there was rumors going around town that it's a possibility of having a new jail built, et cetera, and stuff like that. And the sheriff had made some comments that there were some types of movement going on. And I'm just wondering now, and I'll hang up and listen for your answer, what types of movement has there been, or has there been any at all?
Sure.
I appreciate the call, sir. Thanks a lot.
Great question. Right now, Wood County is doing a jail study. The county hired venture architects to take a look at the needs of the jail and what direction we need to go. I felt that, and our administration felt, during this year, we need to at least address this because we house 100 inmates out of county, and that comes at a pretty significant cost, around $1.6 million, and that's just with the contracts, and then you add the transporting inmates back and forth, which is usually Monday through Friday, daily going to Wapaka and Adams County. Those contracts are coming up in 2023. And we felt that, and there's other reasons we could, we'll talk about why we should at least look at, what direction we're going to go, whether it's, the age of the building, the structure, the design, those types of things. But, we felt with the contracts coming up, we need to at least discuss it. What direction do we want to go? I mean, obviously, the needs there. If you want to talk about just with inmate population, but there's other reasons too as well. But right now, the study's going on. Probably won't be done until another few months, and then once the study's done, the county board will get that information, and then it'll be up to the county board what direction they want to go. Whether they want to table it for now and wait until it's the right time to move forward on it, the information is going to be there. We're also working with our health department to do a similar study that's going to be more focused on our inmate population and a lot of the needs that we can look at as far as lowering our inmate population through program, as we talked about. That'll continue no matter what, because that's part of the goal. If we can lower inmate population through programming, we're going to save money.
Yeah.
And that's going to continue. Will we lower inmate population by 100? No. I have to be realistic. But if we could do 5%, 10% as we move forward, I think that's a win. And then and Melissa's talked about it, once the folks get out of, our jail, we want them to be productive members of the community. I think that's even a bigger win. But it's a great question that was called in. The study, like I said, probably won't be done for a few months. And we'll provide that information.
Yeah, as we get more and more information, I'm sure you'll be able to share with us as it goes. For you yourself, how dire is this as far as getting a new jail on a 1 through 10?
Hard to say. To put a number on it. The need's there.
That's probably the key part there.
Yeah, and it's really I'm not passing the buck onto the county board, but it's their decision. The voters' decision on what direction we want to go. What we're going to do is just provide the information, accurate information to make a decision. No matter what direction, the county goes, as far as our leadership, we're going to continue to operate as is. We have a jail. We'll continue to run it. Mm-hmm. We'll obviously have to continue to house out a county. I just look at, hey, this is an opportunity to discuss it. It's a huge, I wouldn't say ask, but it's a lot of money. I don't know exactly where the cost will come in as far as what it's going to be, but I will say this: for even myself to support something, such a project like this, if the price tag's too high, I'm not going to support it. Right. Because that's part of my money as well. I'm a taxpayer as well. The need is there. We'll just see where the price tag comes back at, and then then we'll move forward from there. Like I said, I think timing-wise, because of the contracts coming up, and believe me, I can almost guarantee the contracts that we have with our other counties that we've been working very well with, they're going to go up. We pay about $36 a day to house an inmate out of county. Now, if you multiply it by 100, that's what we're paying per day. I can pretty much guarantee that's probably going to go up. We'll negotiate with them, but we have to look. Those housing out of county is going to continue to rise.
It's an investment. Something like this, and it's something that can you don't see the effects with something like this immediately. You see it as the course over time, and it's something that I appreciate the calling up and everything, because and your answer and your transparency about it, because it's one of those the gray areas that we hear rumblings about from time to time. We don't really know where it's going, and as the caller mentioned there, I haven't heard any real new news about it in a while. So honestly, myself, when it came to the interview, I planned on asking you the next time I talk to you next month, because I figured I'd have heard something if there was some kind of news.
The study won't be done by then, but it'll be a topic next year for sure.
Sure.
Probably gain more interest, with people calling in. But I'm glad that the caller called that in. It's ongoing. That's the best answer I can give you right now. The need is there. And we'll just see what direction that we're going to go. Like I mentioned, the sheriff's department will continue to operate either way. I just think it's an important thing to at least look into right now. We're
going to take our last break real quick. We'll be back with more here on Morning Magazine, AM 1320 WFHR. It is 29 at Stevens Point, 31 at Marshfield, and Wausau, 32 here in Wisconsin Rapids, where we are back with Sheriff Becker and Melissa Saeger. We also have Kevin with us from Wisconsin Rapids Community Media, of course, and a big thank you to all of you for being in with us on a crazy holiday week and everything. You have the canine program. T-shirts for sale for the canine program. I want to make sure to mention that right away.
Yeah, I'll hold them up here so we can see them on TV. Andy Simon, one of our investigators, was also a canine handler, and he retired Rex a few years ago, and Rex passed recently, and that was very hard on him, the department, and his family, because they transitioned Rex, very well into a family pet and gave him, some really wonderful years as a pet. And that was a tough time for them, but as time passed and they, adjusted a little bit more with, moving forward. In fact, they just bought a German Shepherd puppy to kind of help them transition through a tough time. But an idea they had is, and you see this all over in especially our community, the support that our canine programs have. He and his wife, Morgan, wanted to put together a fundraiser where they got T-shirts recognizing Rex and put his paw print in the back. And we're selling for $20. we'll put some stuff online, but here's what they look like. And if you look at the back, that's actually
that is a fantastic shirt.
Rex's paw print.
I love that. That's a great design. First up, I mean, that's just a cool design right there. But
they came up with it, and we partnered with ODC. Another. I don't think everybody realizes, what ODC can offer to the community. Yes. It's awesome. We did a tour there, and that's kind of where the T-shirt idea evolved from. That they can do this, and they're $20 a piece. The profits will go to our canine program. We have an Acacia Foundation that's a 501(c). I'm saying that right. Or you can get a write-off on your taxes if you want to do a donation. And we have a lot of local businesses that are awesome that support the program. But individuals do too. And like I said, this is just another opportunity we can get some more funds into that Acacia Foundation. The goal is to get around $100,000. We're getting there. We're not there yet. And once we hit that mark, what that means is we usually need a dog probably about every 7 years. Yeah. Once we hit that dollar amount, the interest from that every 7 years will pay for a dog. So that'll be a huge savings for the county, for the sheriff's department, when you don't have to budget. We do need a new dog this year. We're retiring Toro in about a month or so. And James Pigeon, the handler, is going to go and get another dog. And there's a company out of the Fond du Lac area that does canine dogs. And the nice thing about that's in state. Otherwise, we're always sending our deputies out of state just to get a dog. But now we're very fortunate that a reputable company now is here in Wisconsin that we can send our handlers to. And then the ongoing training, you have to continue to work with the dogs. Yeah. It's just a great opportunity that I'm excited to see. We get to go out and pick out the dog probably in about the next month. So that'll be a nice thing that we can do ahead of time. Not that they're giving you a dog. It's how does that handler work with the dogs they have on site, and then you go from there. It's a huge program.
It is one of my favorite things doing this show is hearing that when organizations and other organizations come together and are able, you're really benefiting the whole community when this happens. And it's great to hear that Ink Splash, the people over at ODC, being able to come up with this and help with the T-shirts and that. And it's a great marriage right there. That's a really cool combination. And we get so many of those with these interviews that we do and everything. It's a lot of fun to hear. So that's great. But one thing, and we've only got a couple minutes here, but what I want to just touch on really quick is why the Canine program is so vital, is so important. I understand it, and you guys understand it very well. But for those out there listening, why this is so important to what you guys do.
Yeah, it's on two levels. One, community-wise, people really like to see a law enforcement agency's dog in a PR setting, but that's just a very small part of it, though. But it does do the department, all law enforcement agencies well, because it brings that community-oriented policing right on the forefront. Where if we just do a presentation for a school or a business, or just if there's an event that's a large event in the area, just that presence with the dog really sparks attention and a conversation with that department member, that canine handler. People, like I said, like dogs. Most people do. Yeah. But then you have to look at the bigger picture. Why we have them is it's a tool. It's a tool that that they can detect contraband. They can search for people, search for items, and assist our law enforcement officers in really some tough situations. Yeah. We don't want to see anybody get taken down or bit by a canine, but if the situation dictates it, it will. But they're a huge tool for law enforcement agencies. We have two of them. A lot of our local departments. I mean, we're very fortunate in Wood County to have the Coosa Police Department just got one. Marshfield PD has two. Wisconsin Rapids has one, but they're fundraising for another one, so they'll have two. And we'll maintain having two as long as I'm sheriff. I mean, because they work different shifts. So, in Wood County, I could pretty much tell you 24/7, there's probably a dog on it. And then it goes down to that partnership that we, hey, if Rapids needs a canine and we have one working and they don't, we're going.
Yeah,
Vice
and
versa.
the PR part you mentioned is really cool too, because any chance we have to have kids be, and I was thinking of going to schools and that, and any chance we have for kids to be more and more comfortable as they get older with law enforcement and coming to you guys and talking to you guys and everything, that there's no downside to that. But I also appreciate you mentioning what they do, because we've all seen the car pulled over and the dog smelling around, but the searching for people, and that is a huge part of it too, of why it's so vital to have these in our police departments throughout the country and everything, and why these dogs mean so much to you guys too. I mean, again, a lot of people like dogs, and even people who don't like dogs can understand why people care about dogs, but it's a different level for you guys because this is another fellow officer. This is a fellow. You don't look at it as just a dog. It's a fellow officer. So that part of it is key too.
Sure is.
As we're wrapping up here, and I got to let you guys go, I did want to mention real quick, congratulations to those mid-state grads that you had.
Yeah, we had a ceremony a couple weeks ago, and we had 4 people that we sponsored to go through the criminal justice program there. They have now graduated and continue to working with us part-time, but they're getting their names out in the job market. I believe one of them might have gotten hired by one of our local law enforcement agencies, but I'd have to look into that. But that's what usually happens.
Yeah. Congrats to them.
We're very fortunate to have them just in a part-time setting for a year or two. We're very happy when they move on somewhere full-time, especially locally. But just to be part of their law enforcement career in the start, I think is it's just a nice thing. It's a win-win for not only the department but that individual as well.
Appreciate you all being in with us, and more than anything, appreciate everything you do for our community and the people in it. We're safer and happier because of it, and we appreciate you so much. Wish you guys a safe and happy New Year's, and again, a big thank you to both of you being in with us today.
All right. Well, thanks for having us.
Thank you. Again, a big thank you to Melissa Saeger and Sheriff Becker for being in with us. Kevin from Wisconsin Rapids Community Media, always appreciate you, Ben. And be listening tomorrow for more Morning Magazine starting at 10:06 right here on AM 1320 WFHR.